Hello boys and girls, today we are going to be going over 7 unexpected video game sequels that I think everybody is excited for. Quick disclaimer, I will not be talking about GTA 6 because yes, while it's been nearly a decade since GTA 5 was released, we all knew it was coming. It was no more unexpected than catching an STD from that stripper you banged in Tulsa that was offering blowjobs for $20. Same thing to be said for the Elder Scrolls series. We all knew it was coming up. The only surprising factor here is that we've gotten like 6 releases of Skyrim before this shit was even announced. Last thing, this list is in no particular order, so with that out the way, let's dive right in. When the new Fable was announced, my scrotum tingled with excitement. Pretty sure my sperm production quadrupled for at least a month. Fable 3 was released almost 12 years ago, and while a lot of fans disliked it, I personally loved it. Good storyline, with the same basic formula and goofy humor, which I hope never changes. I also loved the Industrial Revolution time period that included the highlights of that era like heavy pollution and child labor. With complete radio silence for 10 years, and Lionhead Studios being shut down in 2016, who would have thought we'd see another Fable game? Now let me be clear, I technically cheated by including this in my list since it's not actually a direct sequel, it's more of a reboot. But fuck you, it's my list, I'll put whatever I want on it. Just wait until you see the Saints Row reboot pop up. Now, I do have to express some worry for Fable since it's being developed by Playground Games rather than Lionhead. Okay, first of all, Playground Games has never made anything other than Forza Horizon, which is less than promising in my opinion. Sure, they can build a game world that's truly boner-inducing, but have you ever listened to the dialogue on Forza Horizon? I don't know if they're up to this, and I'm almost certain they can't capture the same style of humor. But we'll see what happens. Either way, I'm very excited for a Fable reboot, so fingers crossed it does the series justice. You know I had to mention it, finally a new entry in Skate. God, have I been waiting for this one since like the 12th time I completed every single challenge in Skate 3. EA has finally come out of this dark, depressing rut that is copy and pasting FIFA and Madden and just absolutely ass-blasting people with microtransactions. They have officially taken their dicks at least halfway out of gamers' mouths with this one, and decided to give the fans what they actually fucking want. Not much to say about this one, because I already covered a lot of speculation and concerns and predictions in my last video, so if you haven't already, go check that out. Now covering another one that's not actually a sequel, the Saints Row reboot is coming up very soon actually. After the dumpster fire that was Saints Row 4 and that abomination Gat Out of Hell, I really thought this series was done for. Now I gotta say, although Saints Row 4 was easily my least favorite out of the series, I still found it a somewhat enjoyable experience. There was a solid lack of good story, which is something that's always brought me back to the first 3, especially the first 2. But I'll say I did find the addition of superpowers rather enjoyable, but only when you squint your eyes and pretend you're not playing Saints Row. Seriously, go back, play it, pretend it's not Saints Row, pretend it's some, random superhero game or some shit, and it is an entirely manageable game, especially if you can get past the repetition, and of course ignore the obvious copy and paste from Saints Row 3 to 4 with the engine and graphics. I think I speak for all Saints Row fans here when I say we've been asking for a more gritty gang sim type game like the first 2 games. I mean, their whole approach with going so balls to the walls insane following 2, then even more so after 3, was to lose that GTA clone title. GTA made one fucking game that was in this style, and that was San Andreas. They have not made a game like that since, so what the fuck, Volition? There's open market space here. We don't have any down-to-earth gritty gang sims anymore. Nobody's going to call you a GTA clone anymore. You made your fucking point. But apparently they felt they had not made their point because they pulled out their dicks and bestowed a fat mushroom stamp upon all our foreheads with this millennial power fantasy nonsense. What audience are you trying to appeal to here, Volition? But regardless of the premise, I will say, Volition has proved they know how to make enjoyable games even when going off the fucking rails like my aunt when she stops taking her Xanax. So I'm holding high hopes for this one, and I'm hoping I can see past the fact that our gang looks like they crawled out of the goddamn AV club. Next up, we got Stalker 2, another one I thought we'd never see. It's been almost 13 years since the last entry in the series, and I can say I'm pretty excited for this one. The little masochist inside of me is just screaming to come out right now. I'm not sure if I was just completely ass at these games, but I definitely have distinct memories of being 8 or 9 years old and wanting nothing more than to play Shadow of Chernobyl because it looked like such a sick game, but every time I played I died a little bit inside because of how unbelievably hard that shit was. Now I've went back and played Shadow Shadow of Chernobyl and Call of Pripyat fairly recently, and while I did a lot better, god damn was I still getting slapped around like a little bitch. Part of me hopes it remains that difficult since there's that rewarding feeling when you do basically anything in those games. My character could successfully take a shit and I would be overwhelmed with a sense of accomplishment, like I just won a fucking Nobel Prize. Now, will this be the case? Probably not. Nowadays, developers try to make their games a little more forgiving so that they can appeal to a wider range of consumers, while still offering players a bunch of different levels of difficulty, ranging from AI having the mental capacity of a potato, all the way up to here's the number for a therapist to deal with the emotional trauma and anger management issues you're about to adopt. While I don't hate myself enough to select any difficulty where the description basically tells you that the game is going to be unplayable and it's going to take you around 7 hours of reloading saves to get through the first 20 minutes of the game, I'm also not a pussy. Mama didn't raise no bitch, and I will put down a game that I just spent $120 on getting the Super Ultimate Golden Dildo Edition, and I will never play that shit again before I set my difficulty to easy. In all seriousness though, I think Stalker 2 is probably going to be a great game. It looks gorgeous from what they've showed, and I'm definitely ready to jump in on this one. Now, this one didn't have a literal decade before even announcing its next entry like some of the games on this list. Sons of the Forest was really unexpected, at least for me. The Forest, while a great game, seemed like one of those one-off, one-hit wonder types of games, but I can say I'm pretty happy to see a sequel here. The Forest had a very unique style that I don't think any other game has ever matched. There's an overwhelming amount of survival games with a focus on crafting and building. There's also a lot of horror games, but unfortunately nowadays, they all fall into the walking simulator category. And I get why they do it like that. I get why people like it, with that feeling of being completely defenseless against whatever antagonist is slowly following you around and popping out of the shadows at you. But that's a kind of anxiety I cannot handle, okay? Look, I already have anxiety, so immerse me in a creepy-ass world that's just full of never-ending suspense and jump scares, where I have the combat prowess of Mort fucking Goldman. I can't handle that shit. Remember Fear? Remember the first BioShock? Those games created a sense of paranoia and fear without making you a helpless little bitch. I could suck Fear and BioShock's dicks for the next 20 minutes in full bukkake fashion, but I digress. The Forest was able to create that same sense of paranoia and fear, while also mixing in your standard crafting-oriented man versus wild type shit, which I truly applaud. I mean, it was engaging, it was fun, and I practically shit myself when I first played, just trying to build a basic hut on the beach, which is generally a pretty safe location in most games. Then out of the corner of my eye, see one of those creepy fuckers just stalking me from the tree line, then noticing more of them before next thing I know it, I'm getting rushed by a bunch of cannibals who most likely intend to skull fuck me while grilling my dick over an open flame. I didn't even realize the game had a story and endings when I played it, because I was too goddamn freaked out to explore the caves. Speaking of crafting and building oriented survival games capable of making you need a change of underwear at a moment's notice, let's talk about a sequel to another game I didn't know had a story or an ending until recently. Ark 2 was announced with fucking Vin Diesel in the trailer. Apparently he was a big fan of the first game, which is baffling to me. I didn't even know Vin Diesel knew how to play video games. I thought he was just a brute that shot guns and drove cars fast. But regardless, if you want to sell a game, put a CGI Vin fucking Diesel in the trailer fighting dinosaurs. Man, we're truly at the pinnacle of existence here, folks. Literally the only thing that could have made that trailer better is if Vin Diesel said something about family as they're all about to face off against whatever those orc-looking motherfuckers were. The fact that Vin Diesel is not only in the trailer, but is supposed to actually be in the game as well, is fucking amazing. I distinctly remember renting the Wheelman game from Blockbuster as a child, solely because it had Vin Diesel in it. I don't even really like him as an actor. I fucking hate the Fast and the Furious movies with their corny-ass one-liners and bullshit nonsensical Okay, hold up, I'm getting off track again. I think it's really bold of Wildcard to take a different approach with Ark 2 and go more story-based, especially considering the current oversaturation of just pure survival games. Not to mention the story of Ark, although not much of a story, was very interesting to me. I enjoyed the premise once I looked up the videos of it all. I never even came close to doing half the shit required for Ascension, but best believe I still sunk hundreds of hours into it, getting the shit scared out of me by T-Rexes and fucking megalodons. I think if they can keep the same core gameplay mechanics and make it like, you're providing food and supplies to NPCs, building structures for everybody, kind of like a Fallout 4 settlement system, then also throw in quests, this game is going to be fucking groundbreaking. Especially if they include the ability to force the NPCs into some slave labor so I don't have to spend 3 hours pulling brush out of the ground with my bare hands for fiber. This game might actually turn out to be a true masterpiece. Kerbal Space Program. a game that somehow managed to keep me engaged despite the fact that I never managed to do one meaningful thing. I last played this when I was about 13 or 14 when it came out, but even at almost 24 years old, I'd imagine if I went back to it, my skill level will not have increased. The grand achievements I hold near and dear to my heart from that game involve managing to get a ship, not a satellite, with no actual functions or purpose to orbit Kerbin. Basically, I managed to throw a bunch of space junk into orbit, and these were not unmanned vessels. Oh no. I trapped probably 20 astronauts in Kerbin's orbit with no fuel to get home and no supplies to survive. Another grand achievement was crash landing on the moon and only killing one of my astronauts, and I had to use mods to make it easier to even achieve that. Now, with all that said, I'm pretty happy to see a bigger and better KSP. I definitely thought the first one would be like a Minecraft style game where they don't release another one, they just continue to update it and having good mod support to keep it fresh. But I think there's definitely a reason to make a second one in an updated engine with updated graphics, bigger, more interesting planets, and a bigger solar system. I know they've confirmed they're making it so you can create colonies on other planets, a feat that I'll probably never achieve, but I'm excited nonetheless. Now, I can't finish this video off without some honorable mentions. Bayonetta, which as far as I can tell is a series beloved by many. I personally have never played it, and I don't know anyone who has played it, or if they did, they aren't really in my face about what a great game it is. But a quick Google search revealed a Game Informer article from last year stating that there hasn't been a single game better than Bayonetta since 2009, other than Bayonetta 2 in 2014. With that said, I'll have to give it a try, but that's a pretty bold statement that I think is likely pretty biased. I've never personally been a fan of the action hack and slash genre. I mean, it just never really appealed to me, so I doubt this one's gonna drop my balls and jaw or anything. Another good honorable mention is Dragon Age 4, another series that I know is beloved by many, but again, not really my style. I love RPGs, but last time I tried to play Origins, which I have very fond memories of playing when it was new, I just couldn't get into it, and I had trouble getting my AI teammates, or whatever the fuck you call them, to do what I wanted them to do. You know, it's got that like Dungeons and Dragons, Baldur's Gate style feel to it, which, don't get me wrong, I loved Baldur's Gate and Neverwinter Nights growing up, but for some reason as an adult, I really just cannot get into them like I used to. I'd much rather sit down and play, Fable or Elder Scrolls, traditional RPG style games. Now, one last one that didn't make the list simply because it hasn't been officially announced but only leaked, and that's a new Fight Night game that's supposedly in development. Actually, development is allegedly paused currently, so EA can focus on a new UFC game, probably trying to figure out ways to monetize it and put microtransactions in, more so than UFC 4. But, I'm really excited to see a new Fight Night, and I hope they don't ruin it with microtransactions and load it up with fucking bullshit DLC. We haven't got one since 2011, and Champion was an amazing fucking game, okay? They had that Champion mode that was story-oriented and actually had a really good, engaging story with interesting new mechanics mixed in, like fighting with only your left hand after your right hand is broken, and the legendary fucking bare fist prison fights. Now, this is something I've never seen any other sports game do. Not with story. Sure, 2K has the career mode, which I haven't played a 2K game since like 2018, but it wasn't really a story. It was just kind of starting out early in your career, doing interviews. And then there's the Madden 21 story, where you can tell they really tried to make it interesting, but probably didn't put very much time into it. I mean, it just wasn't a good storyline. Nothing like Champion, not even fucking close. I haven't played 22, but knowing EA, I'm sure they completely did away with any story aspects anyways, or made another quick, poor excuse for a story like 21. I mean, really, what were you and that other guy you played high school football with called? The fucking Wonder Brothers or some shit? Stupid, not engaging at all, just disappointing. But, props for trying, I guess. There's also just something so satisfying about the sweet science of boxing that just isn't present, at least for me, in the UFC games. The UFC games are fun, but given the choice, I'd much rather play a new Fight Night over a new UFC. Anyways, so that about wraps it up. If there's any unexpected sequels or series revivals that I missed, make sure you let me know in the comments. If you like my content, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button for similar content in the future. See you, folks.